Weird science
is the revolution.
Black Widow and Hawkeye, #1. Written by Stephanie Phillips, art by Paola Villanelli, colors by Mattia Iacono, and letters by VC's Joe Sabino. I'm going to read it's not really recap because this is the first issue, but what leads into this, just to point out that it's so generic, this book, and they don't explain anything. So by the end, I'll even ask you now, like, what is it that you would want to read this book? Unless you're just there and say, I want a Black Widow book. Oh, I want Hawkeye. Oh, I like them. But there's nothing that I could say to somebody like, oh, you got to read this.
No,
it's just kind of generic. It's just kind of basic. But here is the intro. Even when Black Widow and Hawkeye had no one to trust, they still had each other. Once villains, now heroes, both Natasha and Clint have occasionally stumbled in their aspirations to stay on the straight and narrow. But now Black Widow has a symbiote companion whispering in her ear, and Hawkeye is racing toward a fall. Racing towards a fall, he's already gotten a fall, but we're going to play timey-wimey, the weird way that it's presented. And usually when I jump into an issue that you have 20 hours before, and then you realize by the end that it's just to make the issue feel like something happened. Because it's a real, you have this stuff, and we'll get right into it. It's very odd because you start out with this guy being attacked by spiders, then we realize it's actually Black Widow and the symbiote, and this guy Mikhail, who she's saying, you better tell me what's going on, what is happening with Clint, what's happening with Hawkeye. I'll tell you right now that we also get red lettering on black backgrounds for the symbiote deal. It drives me nuts. It never works, and it doesn't work here. And also the idea where, okay, yeah, Black Widow, she's going to go and try to, hunt down to where Clint is. In the meantime, Clint will go through these time jumps of, I was attacked by this assassin, the Russians are after me, the U.S. government. So he did something, but the big thing he did, Stephanie Phillips wants to keep it a secret until the end, but that doesn't make a great cliffhanger because we know he did something. And by the time it happened, you realize probably what happened, right? You kind of figure out, okay, the Russians are after him. You see, the only thing else going on is this whole, ambassador type thing between Russia and the U.S. So he must have done something there, which he did, right?
Yeah.
It's so odd. And so when you get this, you have her chase down this Mikhail. Hey, where is he? Where's Clint? Oh, he's dead. And she uses the symbiote to read his mind to see that, oh, yeah, he must be dead, but she won't believe it. So she's going to go anyway. I'm like, so why are you so weird? Every step of the way ends up weird ways to keep going in that idea of, oh, he's dead? No, I don't believe it, so I'll go anyway. And then you just see Clint, and you see Clint in Marge Report 24 hours ago. And at this point, I'm already not really enjoying myself in something that should just be like popcorn movie fun. And it's just not. And I think it is that time jumping and not knowing what he did at first kind of throws me off. And then you're going to have a lot of things that are going to, wink, wink at the TV show, at the movie. Things like that as he jumps off of a roof and he turns around to shoot an arrow. As you see this Mikhail guy trying to kill him and actually flay him and make a body suit out of him, skin suit. And even that, the dialogue is it just keeps going. She keeps going with this. Oh, he wants to flay my skin and make a suit. Hey, I'm not really a flayed skin suit guy.
I'm more of a sneaker guy.
Yeah, I'm a sneaker guy. I'm like, it's so odd. Okay, you're a sneaker guy. I don't know that there's that many people who are skin flayed suit guys, but hey, you're a sneaker guy. And it just felt odd. But you then go, and even when you have Clint then says, oh, this is one of the many assassins, the one that had a red man, and then we'll just go back to see them. It doesn't really give you a story.
No, not really. You don't know who they are. It's just random assassins. And they're just like, okay, you could have just said, oh, this is the fifth one to attack me. That's all. He literally says it. That's all you need. Just say, I've been attacked by 5 assassins so far. This is the 5th one.
And man, this one's tough. And then ends up and he's like, oh, the 5th one. He's the only one who put a bomb on the back of my, uniform here. And
how'd he survive?
Yeah, I don't know. Because then he thinks he's dead, but then he isn't. I'll go with another thing that really annoy me because then we keep going back in time to set up a basic bitch story. There's no reason. Like you said, the idea of him going on and on about, oh man, this was the fifth assassin, they did this, and then this one guy had a mace, and then this guy had that, and then we have to see it later. No. You just say, like you said, okay, this is the fifth guy. So then we go back, and again, we don't know what Clint did, but it's huge. So it kind of feels silly that we don't know, as if this mystery is going to be something that's going to wow us, but it doesn't. So we and we have Bobby Morse, aka Mockingbird. She's coming to meet up with Black Widow because you end up Thunderbolt stuff. You end up having the idea that Clint is on the run. Bobby, because of her, ex-wife type deal and friendship, she's pulled out. She's not allowed to get any intel until she does, and then just isn't allowed. So she's kind of going to Black Widow and says that I kind of snuck out and I'm going to tell you some info so you can help Clint, but I'm going to be in trouble and then I'm going to go back. But nothing ever feels like even the scene, it doesn't feel like they're rushing to save Clint. It's like they're kind of hanging, talking about Clint. Maybe we'll get some info and go. But the thing that drives me nuts is you keep having Bobby say, I can't get any info. I have no info. They have pulled all the info away. I can't get any of the records. I can't get anything. And then at one point she says, all I could get is a name, the name Mikhail, and then starts talking tons of intel right after that. I don't get it. She goes, all I could get was a name, Mikhail. Intel says he's a Russian. You said you didn't get any intel. You just had a name. Stop. Just say a name and have the idea where Black Widow says, Mikhail, oh no, I hope it's not this guy. We already saw that she found him. So you can go and so this intel says he's a Russian assassin who was arrested by the FSB around 8 years ago. CIA surveillance picked him up walking around Moscow yesterday. You just said that you had no idea where he was because they're not giving you intel. You at least know he was in Moscow yesterday. Plus, you have his bank account info that you're telling Black Widow. You just trace that. It's so ridiculous to get money from Marjapur, and I'm getting this. And she's like, okay, well, I guess we have to get to Mikhail. It's so ridiculous. Like the idea of not having any sort of like detective work or anything going on is one thing, but to say I have no information except the name and then throw a bunch of information to then just have Black Widow go off and do her thing, and then they kind of go back and forth like, hey, I'm going to be wanted by the government. What does Black Widow care? It's like every hot Tuesday that happens, and none of this feels like it means anything. Am I wrong? Right? It feels like it's just them just goofing off and, oh, that Clint, he did that, and we're going to go. And even then, there's parts where when they're talking, you have the bartender, like, you're expecting something more to happen. Like, all of a sudden, the bartender, he's like a spy, and he's up with nothing. They're just getting drinks with umbrellas and giving each other info. And even, I love the idea, too, through all of this, where you have Bobby's like, oh, man, they pulled me out the field. I can't get intel. And then you still have Black Widow think that Bobby's going with her. She's like, I can't go with you. I said it all. Guy. And then I don't even know what's happening. But you go from there, and then you say, well, do you think Clint is guilty?
Why would you ask that? Why would you ask that? Like, well, what's that going to help?
And it's not, and she doesn't answer, and we don't know because you're trying to make this big cliffhanger. And like I said, by the end of this issue, I couldn't say to somebody, oh man, you got to read this, because all I could say is if somebody said, should I read it? I'd say, well, do you like Black Widow and she has a symbiote? And do you kind of like Clint because he's kind of there?
Do you like time jumps?
Yeah, do you like time jump? And this does remind me a little of it's trying to get the flavor of that Hawkeye Freefall book that came out right before the shutdown and then kind of got canceled and then was released digitally to end it, which had some fun. This isn't fun. And then it's not enough to make it like a smart political deal. Plus, you just throw information. And then on the back end, I don't know how many or anybody likes the symbiote Black Widow, but you're not even going to really explain that to anybody who doesn't know that yet. At one point, when you do have Black Widow come, face to face with Clint, he ends up not even saying anything at first. And then it's mentioned later, and he's like, yeah, we're going to have to talk about that later. I don't know, just what is this book for? Because we do see 48 hours. I mean, we just keep going back and back. Next thing you know, we're going to see, Christopher Columbus discover America. He ends up where this big thing, the U.S. and the Russia, we're going to get together. We're going to have this treaty. And again, it's just that because of Black Widow and the way they're playing it. And hey, here is the, foreign minister of Russia. And he's there, and you can only guess that something goes wrong here that involves Clint, which is what happens. You even see it at a point where you're still trying to play this like mystery. You see Clint's hand, let loose a arrow. All right. So what happens is that we go 40 hours ago. And 40 hours ago jump is to show Mikhail now getting out of jail. Now we're going to come back towards the current time by then just showing random scenes of Clint fighting the red mask guy with a mace. And it's filler. There's nothing to it. And then you just get where, all right, there's Black Widow trying to find Mikhail, finds Mikhail, which leads then back to Clint. So we're at, page, we're in the middle of the issue at this point. Yeah. And really, we haven't done anything. We've just shown back and forth to just get to Black Widow finding the deal. And even, did you like this entrance when she comes in and it's like, you think it's another, but it's her, you end up Black Widow saves them because of that. It's just all thrown in. Anything else? I'm telling you, it's so bad. So and it's not infuriatingly bad. I'm like, this is the worst thing ever, but I just don't understand why this book exists. And it's not well written, paced, or done. The art's okay, but you go from here. I don't even know what else there is to say. You end up having Black Widow show up as a symbiote deal and saves Clint. And then they just keep going on about, you're going to be in trouble. And did you do it? And then at the end, we find out, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Just we by the end, Clint's he's like, I totally did it. Yeah, and I'm not brainwashed. I'm not cloned. This is all me, baby. I did it. And it's just like, okay. And
yeah. And that's the thing. You never get the and because you're wasting all this time and time jumps in this way. It's just made to make the issue feel fancy. But when you think of the idea and the progression, it is just Bobby going to Black Widow saying, Mikhail, Black Widow going, finding Mikhail, Marge report, boom, finds Clint. I don't even know how she finds Clint because he's in an ambulance. He is half dead. He wakes up and then she just saves him. And again, he says, we're going to have to talk about that symbiote. And then she says, did you really do it? Never saying what it was at this point. It must be a clone. You must be brainwashed. He's like, nope, it was me. But you're waiting for why, which would come out of his mouth right away. But the way she's playing this, that's the cliffhanger. This book had 3 pages of story in an slightly oversized issue. It had nothing. And again, I don't know what the elevator pitch would be. Hey, get this. Clint kills a Russian ambassador. And
I'm sure he has a reason.
And it'll be the reason of that guy was cloned, or they were going to do this, or whatnot.
Or he's a bad guy, some crap.
I was waiting for, the news, is it Ronin again? Because that's what they always do with this nonsense. But at the end, you see the guy there with an arrow, looks like it, or it's going to be one of those, it was a dupe, and it's this and that. I'm waiting for the guy to turn into a scroll now. And I would just go with that.
I actually did think that, Jim. That is so funny. I did think I was like, what is this supposed to be like a scroll posing as the Russian minister or something?
He'll revert if he's dead. It'll revert to a scroll, and but it'll. Why would we go a whole mini series, and then at the end it just took a while, and now
he just slowly starts turning back into a scroll.
The art's okay. It's not bad.
It's fine.
It's not something that you're going to buy the issue for, though. I just don't know why this exists or why. Except that, hey, we don't have a book with Black Widow and Hawkeye in it. That's all this is. But, I'm sure some people might enjoy it. What would you give it?
I think I'm going to just go 5. Because, like you said, it's very generic, I'm not going to say I hated it. I didn't hate it. But at the same time, I didn't particularly like it, so...
Yeah, it's one of those where I didn't hate it while I was reading it, but now I'm talking about it, and you're trying to get something to talk about, and... it just isn't very good. There's nothing to it.
You could easily sum this up in a paragraph.
This mystery idea of having this time jumping thing is just, it's not played out. I think that if you would have just started out, you saw Clint kill this guy, and then he's on the run, then we would have been like, oh my God, why did he do that? what's going on? Is that really Clint? Play up the idea. Is it a clone? Is it that? It just isn't well done. But I don't expect much from Stephanie Phillips. She's okay. She doesn't infuriate me most of the time, but it's not anything that I would seek out. So I think this is just going to be one of those books that's just going to fade away. I'm going to give it a 5.5.
Okay.
I'm going to go slightly higher than you. Just same deal, though. It's very basic.
Weird science is the revolution.